Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we're looking at Glitch Tech Season 2, Episode 5, The New Recruit. We're halfway through the second season and going strong. Our girl Ridley is back with her adorable chomp kitty. Mitch is being Mitch. Phil fulfills the promise of danger he made in the first season. And I got sent down a rabbit hole of research and actually called up a couple of other geeks in order to confirm that it wasn't just my confirmation bias recognizing patterns. But more into that on a later video. That deserves videos of its own. See, confirmation bias is when you get a theory or have an idea and suddenly all you can see is proof of your idea. You have the shape of how you think a thing is, be it a person's character or a pet fan theory, and because the human brain is basically just a really efficient pattern recognition machine, your brain starts to filter out anything that challenges your theory and automatically highlights anything that gives credit to your theory. It's just a natural human thing that happens, and it's something that scientists are really taught to watch out for, and why it's so critical that we get other scientists to look at our work. For instance, here's an example from the show. Five came into the job with the idea of Mitch as Mitch for the Mitch FTW. He had the image of Mitch as the kind and competent instructor in his mind. Therefore, Five always notices when Mitch is teaching Five and Me-K.O. He notices how Mitch always seems to show up and save their butts when Five and Me-K.O have gotten in over their heads. Me-K.O came into the job, however, with an image of Mitch as a cheating, game-stealing griefer. She notices every time Mitch steals a glitch that they brought down, resents it, even when Five and Me-K.O had lost control of the situation and genuinely needed Mitch's help. She sees his bad attitude and his abrasive personality. Five at first sees a mentor watching their backs. Me-K.O sees a thief interfering with their success. In the last episode, Five faced Mitch where he was wrong, and in this episode, Me-K.O has to face where she was wrong about Mitch. This is a lovely but complicated scene. Mitch is confronting Ridley about what he calls achieving an impossible score. On the surface, it just looks like Mitch is bracing her, as they say in the old westerns. That he is using a tactic commonly used by drill sergeants. He grabs her gauntlet arm and pulls her into his personal space before looming over Ridley and demanding the truth eye to eye. Now, Ridley's answer is interesting. She states that the win of points was clean, which was what Mitch had demanded of her, and by Ridley's morals at this point, and she has a very strong moral code, the wins were clean, the points were clean. Compared to Mitch's glitch snatching, in her mind, her clone padded score was perfectly fair. So her confidence in her moral ground is firm, allowing her to answer him eye to eye. Now, Mitch seems to accept this, and this is an old trope, the higher-ranked character bracing the new character and walking off having accepted their word of honor. It's just that I've gotten very suspicious of old tropes in this show. Mitch's reaction is grim acceptance of a defeat. He isn't happy. His pride is clearly stung by being knocked off the top of the leaderboard. However, he accepts it with perfectly good grace, the same way he accepted Five and Birdie bringing in the boss in Collection Quest, and with the same energy he praised Fives with for defeating the Ping Cube in Ping when he couldn't. Mitch is never backwards with praise when he judges that someone deserves it. So if he was genuinely accepting that Ridley was simply an excellent glitch tech, that this scene is perfectly in character for him. Added to this is that right after Mitch had the need for teamwork driven home for him in the Pod People episode. Again, Mitch is obviously a little unhappy that he is no longer number one, but he is not angry at Ridley at all, and a few moments later seems to have put the incident behind him. So it seems that while it did sting a bit, to no longer be number one, it didn't bother him all that much ultimately. That ultimately Mitch just didn't care about the number one position. If someone else had more points than he did fairly, he was fine, as long as he had enough points of his own. And this does jive with something of what we learned about Mitch in episode 9, that he needed those XP points for a reason, not just to be the best. So, like I said, everything seems to point to this either being character development, i.e. we the audience get to see that something more powerful than selfish pride is at work within Mitch, that he is not just the griefer that we've thought him to be, that he is man enough to praise his inferiors when they perform competently, but also that he is man enough to accept it when somebody genuinely outclasses him. That said, that is a tidy little box of explanations, and this show has made me paranoid of tidy little boxes. After all, they might contain a ping glitch. There is another slant that could be put in this scene, however. There is another interpretation. You see, Mitch grabbed Ripley's gauntlet hand with his and pulled them both gauntlets down off screen, while he kept her eyes locked on him and her brain focused on defending herself from his implied accusation. We don't actually see what his hand is doing, but in the previous episode we saw Mitch easily hack Five's gauntlet to get back the XP clone he has given away. His clone had given away while Mitch was in the pod. It is possible that Mitch was hacking or trying to hack Ridley's gauntlet in this scene, perhaps downloading her data or linking their gauntlets together so that he could find out what she was up to. However, the following scenes don't follow up at this, at least not in this episode, so it's a possibility utterly without evidence, a theory without basis, at least none that I saw. Leave a comment below telling me if you saw any more evidence for this theory. I'm very interested in it because it's a very, very intense and interesting scene. And so the episode goes on. First, we have the obvious plot twist, the obvious face heel turn and its mirror beat. We get more emotional character development from Phil. We get to see that Phil is courageous, has brute physical courage, that he takes care of his techs at the risk of his own life and safety. We learn about the automated defenses of the glitch tech systems. Now, the main threat of the episode provides us with some very interesting world building. The glitches that the techs capture are stored in the main server, and when they are released, they keep what appears to be the last form that they took. So this appears to be the life of a glitch. They are born from the pixels of a Hinobi core, and when the core cracks, the glitch router form escapes from it. The little green ghost hunts around until it can find a source of data to form a body with. Some takes these forms immediately if there is a game in the console, and some have to wander around them in their base forms until they find a host. However, in order to capture them, the techs have to blast them back down to the base form, disrupting the data. Now, we don't know this exactly, but the first episode strongly suggests that glitches can switch forms. The glitch that was released from Mitch's gauntlet was presumably something else before it got into the arcade and took the form of Chomp Kitty, because Mitch seemed so surprised to see a Chomp Kitty there. However, it could have been just a router form before this, but we don't know. But we do know that when Ridley released all of the glitches from containment, all of the glitches immediately assumed their last taken form, as soon as they could resolve. Now, Team Ridley had brought in a bunch of glitches that day, but there seemed to be more than they could have brought in. Much more. However, because we don't know the usual daily rate of glitch intake, nor do we know how many clones they made that day, there's no way to calculate how many more than usual there were in the server, but there were a lot of glitches in there. So this raises the question, what is done with the captured glitches? And why did they all suddenly start attacking the glitch techs? Yes, they were agitated, and yes, on the other hand, it could be that their last memory was the glitch techs attacking them. I have speculated that the pixels are returned to some central bank or storage area of pixels after the glitch techs capture them, and then are recycled back into new cores, and that Hinobi basically reused them. That might still be the case. Hinobi might just collect the glitches once a month, or when the main server reaches some predetermined capacity. It doesn't seem that pixels can be transmitted remotely. The data to form them can, but not the pixel energy themselves. This also tells us that even once a glitch has returned to root mode, at least if it hasn't taken a new form, it retains the data from its last form. So either the root form stores a memory of what they were, or could it be that the gauntlets store the data? But if the gauntlets stored the data, how did the root forms in the storage know how to reform into their last shape? It's very curious. This does, however, rather favor my Soylent Green theory that Hinobi cores are people, and what manifests as a glitch is actually the trapped person spirit trying to escape and regain a body, a ghost in a shell, as it were. But Dan Milano did say in his FAQ sheet that Hinobi wasn't just straight up evil, at least no more so than any big tech company today, so that would probably eliminate the possibility of straight up enslaving human souls to run their machines. On the other hand, would that be so different from the sweatshops that some big companies run on a theoretical level? Questions, theoretical questions. Then the episode wraps up with the big plot twist at the end. Now, I won't spoil it too much, but this does follow logically from Mitch's character development in the last episode. Mitch admitted that he couldn't do it on his own, that he couldn't achieve his goals without help, that he needed teammates. But then, after that, he immediately yells loudly that he doesn't trust his current teammates. He is clearly cultivating an ally here outside of Hinobi, and it clearly pays off in later episodes. So the question becomes, Why does Mitch want an ally on the outside of Hinobi? So, what do you think, my wonderful viewers? What was Mitch's hands doing on Ridley's gauntlet in that scene? Why did he twist the plot that way at the end? Leave a like below if you agree, and leave a comment telling what on Third Earth is going on if you have any idea, because this was a very perplexing episode. Hit that subscribe button and check out the Amazon link if you want a book to break your heart in Dying Embers, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.